Something strange is happening at Aston Martin. No loud announcements. No viral reveals. Just a few quiet sketches, and one name behind it all. Adrian Newey. The most successful car designer in Formula One history. Now with full creative control, a clean regulation reset, and a factory built entirely around his vision. What's emerging behind those closed doors isn't just a car. It's a concept no one else is ready for. A machine that may not break the rules, but could make them irrelevant. Because if the AMR26 is what some insiders believe it is, then we're not looking at a comeback. We're looking at a warning. Officially, the 2026 season is a reset. New regulations. New power units. New energy limits. All designed to create balance, sustainability, and fresh opportunity across the grid. But there's one name that makes balance irrelevant the moment it appears on the entry list. Adrian Newey. The man who redefined what a Formula One car could be across 3 different decades and 4 different teams has now been handed something he's rarely had before. Time, freedom, and total structural control. This isn't Red Bull. This isn't a mid-season upgrade program. This is a blank sheet of paper handed to the most dangerous mind in motorsport. And Aston Martin has built its entire 2026 program around him. This is the first time the Silverstone-based team has started from zero. Not reusing old IP, not borrowing concepts from a top team, not compromising around a non-works engine. With Honda's factory power unit, a brand new chassis philosophy, and a wind tunnel finally aligned with modern regulations, everything about the AMR26 is designed to match one thing: Newey's thinking. And if there's one pattern in Formula One history that never fails, it's this. When Adrian Newey has control of the concept before the regulations hit the track, he doesn't just build a fast car. He builds something no one else understands until it's too late. Officially, the 2026 season is a reset. New regulations. New power units. New energy limits. All designed to create balance, sustainability, and fresh opportunity across the grid. But there's one name that makes balance irrelevant the moment it appears on the entry list. Adrian Newey. The man who redefined what a Formula One car could be across 3 different decades and 4 different teams has now been handed something he's rarely had before. Time, freedom, and total structural control. This isn't Red Bull. This isn't a mid-season upgrade program. This is a blank sheet of paper handed to the most dangerous mind in motorsport. And Aston Martin has built its entire 2026 program around him. This is the first time the Silverstone-based team has started from zero. Not reusing old IP, not borrowing concepts from a top team, not compromising around a non-works engine. With Honda's factory power unit, a brand new chassis philosophy, and a wind tunnel finally aligned with modern regulations, everything about the AMR26 is designed to match one thing: Newey's thinking. And if there's one pattern in Formula One history that never fails, it's this. When Adrian Newey has control of the concept before the regulations hit the track, he doesn't just build a fast car. He builds something no one else understands until it's too late. We haven't seen the full AMR26. No launch video. No tech walkthrough. No raw data. But even the smallest leaks, a shadow in a render, an oddly shaped intake, a glimpse of suspension geometry, are telling a different kind of story. And that story doesn't follow the path the FIA imagined. The front end looks wrong, not in a flawed way, but in a way that suggests it was never meant to do what the rest of the grid is doing. The suspension arms don't prioritize mechanical grip in the traditional sense. They look engineered to manage airflow first, with mechanical compliance second. And the side pods? They're almost non-existent, tapered, starved, sculpted. Not because Aston Martin is minimizing drag, but because Newey is reshaping the car's energy footprint. He's not building the car to survive the 50% electric power shift. He's building it to make that shift irrelevant. And the most worrying detail? The thermal packaging. From what little can be inferred, the car is pushing extremely aggressive cooling assumptions. No excess bodywork, no conservative heat management, no oversized battery enclosures. It's like he's designing a car that never suffers from overheating. But that kind of confidence doesn't come from hope. It comes from knowing the car won't need to correct its weaknesses, because the weaknesses have already been engineered out of the operating window. And in a season where most teams are praying they can just balance the hybrid demands and cooling loads without detonating mid-race, Aston Martin looks like they've already moved on. And that's where the fear begins to spread. Because if this car is even moderately competitive from the start, it means everyone else spent 2 years solving the wrong problems. On paper, the 2026 rules are tight. Powertrain balance locked at 50-50 between internal combustion and electric. Active aerodynamics standardized. Fuel flow tightly controlled. ERS deployment mapped into defined windows. Everything designed to limit loopholes. Everything designed to prevent exactly the kind of innovation that destabilized the grid in 2009, 2014, and again in 2022. But this isn't about a loophole. This is about something far worse. An intellectual blind spot. Because Adrian Newey doesn't build cars to break rules. He builds cars that operate just outside what the rules even consider. What if the AMR26's energy systems aren't just efficient, but predictive? What if the cooling isn't just aerodynamic, it's passive, self-regulating, heat-neutralizing through unseen design logic? And what if none of those systems trip FIA sensors, because they've been designed to adapt before thresholds are even approached? That's not bending the rules. That's designing around the idea of regulation. That's what Newey does best. He doesn't ask, what's allowed? He asks, what hasn't been imagined yet? And if Aston Martin has given him the infrastructure, the funding, and critically the time to pursue that thinking from a blank slate, then we're not talking about innovation. We're talking about architectural disruption. This car might not dominate in a straight line. It might not even show its strength in qualifying. But over a race distance, under thermal load, in hybrid deployment cycles, the AMR26 could begin doing something far more dangerous than winning. It could make the other cars look outdated. And that's the moment when the grid stops seeing Aston Martin as a team, and starts seeing them as a threat to the regulatory structure itself. Usually, when a team steps out of line visibly or conceptually, the reaction is immediate. A protest. A request for clarification. A leak to the media designed to raise pressure on the FIA. But this time? Nothing. No one is accusing Aston Martin of cheating. No one is calling for regulation reviews. No team is publicly pointing fingers. And in Formula One, that's not peace, it's fear. Because the moment a team builds something you don't understand, you have two options. Start your own investigation. Or stay quiet, because if you're wrong, you reveal just how far behind you really are. And that's the situation in 2026. It's not that rival teams think Aston Martin is doing something illegal. It's that they're worried the AMR26 is doing something they can't even measure yet. Telemetry doesn't line up. Airflow models don't simulate correctly. Sim data suggests Aston's predicted degradation is abnormally flat, not good, not great, unnaturally consistent. And engineers don't like consistency they can't explain. Because that usually means the car isn't being balanced by setup tweaks or driver adaptation. It means the balance is built in. That terrifies teams. Because it forces a question they hate asking mid-season. Are we trying to beat a car? Or are we trying to decode it? And in F1, by the time you're trying to decode a rival's concept, you've already lost the development war. That's what no one is explaining. Not because they're protecting Aston Martin, but because they don't yet understand what they're reacting to. This isn't a scandal. It's a gap in understanding, and that's what wins championships. Quietly, efficiently, and long before the public ever realizes what's happening. Let's say the AMR26 isn't the fastest car in Bahrain. Let's say it finishes P4. Quiet, controlled, unremarkable. That might be the worst-case scenario for the rest of the grid. Because if this car is even moderately competitive in its debut, with the amount of radical architecture suspected beneath its bodywork, it will prove one thing no one wants to hear. That Newey's concept isn't just viable. It's scalable. And that's when the problems begin. Because Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, they've all committed to completely different aerodynamic and energy philosophies. To pivot mid-season? Impossible. To start over in 2027? Incredibly expensive. And worse, it means admitting that after 2 years of preparation, they were all solving the wrong problem. If Aston Martin's architecture holds up under race conditions, if the hybrid deployment is seamless, if the cooling system never limits push laps, if the floor maintains stable downforce regardless of battery state, then every other team will face a brutal reality. Their development curve isn't steep enough to catch up. Because this isn't about adding performance. It's about rebuilding logic. Their simulations, their CFD models, their balance sheets. They were all built assuming everyone would be fighting the same battles. But if the AMR26 was built to avoid those battles entirely, then Aston Martin has gained something far more valuable than half a second per lap. They've gained time. And in Formula One, time compounds. With a working concept and Adrian Newey still in control, Aston Martin won't just get stronger. They'll get faster at getting stronger. That's when a car becomes a platform. And a platform becomes a project. And a project becomes a dynasty. If this car works, we might be witnessing the last version of Formula One as we know it. Because the AMR26 isn't just a performance project. It's a design philosophy, backed by unlimited resources. A power unit tailored to it from the ground up. And the most dangerous mind the sport has ever seen still pulling the strings. And that's the real fear. That Newey's not chasing titles anymore. He's chasing a proof of concept. A machine that proves the current rulebook is vulnerable. That the FIA's attempt to control innovation has failed not through defiance, but through elegance. No protests. No scandals. Just silence until it's too late. And if that happens, the rest of the grid won't be fighting for points. They'll be fighting for relevance. Because the moment you see a car that doesn't just outperform you, but outthinks the regulations themselves, you're no longer in a competitive environment. You're in a conceptual war. And Newey has declared it without saying a word. So watch the data. Ignore the headlines. Because if Aston Martin keeps improving at this pace, with a chassis this unusual and a power unit this integrated, the problem won't be 2026. The problem will be what comes after. When everyone else is forced to chase a concept they don't understand. Designed by a man who may never build another car again. This might be his final act. And if it is, he's making sure no one forgets it.